Hey, what's up, guys? Nick Pell coming to you once again with another book review for you from my white room. And this week's book is the fifth book in the Walking Dead series that I am currently reading, entitled, well, The Walking Dead Book 5. I read this hardcover edition, just like with the past four and the next two, or next three. Before I get into anything, know that there will be spoilers from the first four books in some way, shape, or form. And then there will be slight spoilers from this one in terms of just how the story is set up and when I have to talk about characters and some of the basic plots. Yeah, know that, and we move on to characters. First character, as it probably most likely always will be, is Rick. And he is kind of in a mode of craziness and lacking in basically self-confidence after the events of the farm, in which he saw his wife get killed, in which he saw he feels responsible for almost everyone's death which occurred back in the prison, and this has kind of changed him, and he is starting to kind of reflect on that, and it's really kind of interesting to see that, and that's how he starts out this book. And we also have Carl for the first time, and Carl, if you don't know this somehow, Carl is Rick's son, and he kind of has more of a sense of an independence, which has been steadily growing since the first book. He's able to take out walkers. I call them walkers just because of the show. They're called roamers in the book. But he's able to take out walkers just on his own now. He's not nearly as scared as the normal kid would be. He also still has that innocence of a child. While he tries to make himself believe that he's not a kid anymore, he really is. In reality, he's scared and he wants his father and his parents. We also have Michonne, who shows up fairly early, right at the beginning of the book. She locates Rick and Carl, and they kind of start journeying together. And then, about midway through the book, you realize that Rick and Michonne have something of a similarity about them now, which they didn't have before, and it's kind of interesting to see that and to see how that will shape the book as a whole, or the series as a whole. And lastly, we have a new character who is in a group of three characters who meet up with the overall group pretty early on in the first chapter of the book, and his name is Abraham, and he, I believe, will be a central character for the rest of the book, or for the rest of the series, at least until he dies in some way, shape, or form. He was an army person, and he is on a mission to get to Washington, D.C. Yeah, those are the central characters that I found. There are other characters, as there always is, but know that those are the four ones that I picked out to be the most important in this volume of the series. Yeah, moving on to the plot, and the plot starts out directly after the events of the prison, and if you read the fourth book, which I don't know why you would be watching this if you didn't, you see that the prison is overtaken by walkers. The governor's people went in, they slaughtered a lot of Rick's group, and which cost a lot of lives, obviously. It starts out, Rick and Carl are separated from everyone else, and they're just kind of wandering in the woods, and they're seeing how they can survive on their own, and they're doing what they can to survive. And it's just a really interesting situation, but pretty early on they locate the rest of the group, and then they meet up with Abraham and his group, and that basically sets up the rest of the book in their journey to Washington with Abraham and his group. So that is the basic plot, without hopefully going into too many events. There are some things that happen which are eventful, but I might get to that in enjoyment. So let us go to themes first, though. Themes, as usual, they will stay the same: survival, life, death, and then trust is another one that is a big influence on this book, just because Rick and the others, just because they've been through so much and they've known so much betrayal and distrust, it's really tough for them to accept other people and be able to cooperate in an effective way. And it's kind of interesting to see that from time to time. They are on their guard, and they're very uneasy about trusting anyone anymore. Because you saw in book one when Rick entered the group via Glenn, and everyone was just all welcoming, because Rick knew some of the people that were there, but also because they didn't really know any betrayal or anything. Now, I think if Rick had tried to go in a year after those events, which is when this takes place, it would have been a lot more tension filled, and it would have been more interesting. So those are the themes, and we move on to enjoyment. And I enjoyed this book, but I didn't enjoy it as much, probably just because it's not as action packed. It's not as tension building, but it does have some tensiony moments, if that makes sense. It's exciting, but not as exciting as the last few. But basically, just because it's setting up a new story arc. The prison is done. Woodbury is done. Very few things from that are brought up in this, and it's just basically going on after that. And so yeah, that's basically what it is. I did enjoy it. I thought that seeing Rick's development after the death of Lori and Judy is very interesting to look at, and to see the reactions of a lot of other people and their growing mistrust of Rick. And I thought that Dale was kind of an interesting person to see, because he seems to jump back and forth in terms of his trust in Rick and then his mistrust in Rick. And that's just kind of something to look at, and I feel like it's going to reflect something similar to what Dale did in the show in terms of his relationship with Shane in the show. Yeah, that's just my opinion. Don't leave any spoilers about this book or any of the next 2 or 3, depending on when you see this. And yeah, I would appreciate that. Like, favorite, comment, and subscribe if you so choose. That would be awesome, and I would be highly appreciative of it. Yeah, I believe that's it. As always, my name is Nick Pell, and once again, my good people, keep on reading.